3, 2, 1, let's go! Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about template literals. Yes, it's that brand new way of creating a string in which you can embed your JavaScript variables so you don't have to make all those really ugly long string concatenations to be able to combine your variables with string literals. You want to see how it works? Let's take a look. So before I show you what template literals are all about, let's show you the old way you had to put strings and variables together. I have an array here, and I have extracted 3 variables from that array, my cat, dog, and my horse, which are, of course, my first 3 elements. And then I want to print out a message that says my animals are a cat, a dog, and a horse. So how did we do that? Real easy. We got a string, we put a little plus sign there, then we put our variable we want to include there, then another plus sign, and then another string, and then another plus sign, and another variable, another plus sign, another variable, and a string, and a variable, and a plus, on and on and on and on and on. We just concatenate all the variables together with all the different strings using plus signs, and that gives us what we want. Just to check it out and make sure that actually has happened, let's type in node literal, and my animals are a cat, dog, and horse, so it worked out great. So what does string literals give us? Well, it gives us a much better way to be able to create strings like this. By creating a string that has embedded within it little markers that says, okay, at this point, insert a JavaScript expression or a JavaScript variable into this particular point. So let's bring one up here. I just happen to have it down here. Let's bring it up here, and I'll keep it right next to the old one up there. So this is a template literal. 2 very important pieces to it. First of all, it starts with a tick mark. It doesn't start with a single quote or a double quote. It starts with a backtick mark. And anything that is between the 2 tick marks, there's one at the beginning here and there's one at the very end here. Anything, and I mean anything, that is within those 2 tick marks will get copied over as part of the string. Now, when I say anything, I mean anything. And I'll show you that here in just a second. But the second part is, so again, the tick marks define the beginning and the end. The second part is you can define a variable within the string, and that is defined by a $sign within curly Q brackets. Anything that is within those curly Q brackets, as it begins, if it begins with the $sign, basically means that take this JavaScript expression and insert it right here. It could be a variable, it could be expression. Doesn't matter. As long as it resolves itself down to a single value, it will automatically get inserted into that point as if it was just a normal variable. So this section right here, cat, a dog, and a horse, replaces all of this up here. And this literal, by having the variables automatically inserted into the string, allows us to look at it it's much cleaner. It makes it look easier on the eyes. It's much cleaner. It's much easier to understand, especially if you got a programmer coming in later on down the road with your project here. So by using template literals, we are able to get rid of the real nasty plus this, plus that, whatever that we have been used to using in JavaScript for eons, basically. Does this actually work? Well, let's go back over to Node and take a quick look. Let's go to node literal, and I'll leave the old one on the screen here. Yeah, worked exactly the same way. So what template literals give us is the ability to be able to define a string that has embedded within it markers to where variables can be automatically inserted. And that allows us to get rid of all this plus concatenation garbage that we used to have to do. Now, earlier I said that the template literals, excuse me, anything between the tick marks, the template literals will take everything, no matter what. And when I mean everything, I really mean it. So let's take a look at something else here. I'm going to pull up some more code. Another definition for my animals. And I'll go ahead and erase the original one too. Here's another definition of my animals. Here's my beginning tick mark. Here's my ending tick mark. I have on one line here, my animals are, and then I have 1 cat, 1 dog, and 1 horse. Now, everything is picked up between the tick marks. That includes the line feeds and the carriage returns, the spaces at the beginning of each line here, the space at the beginning of this line, absolutely everything. So if you had special characters within your string here, if you have carriage return line feeds like I have here, it will automatically get picked up by the tick mark. So once you do a tick mark, everything is included until it finds that old tick mark. Absolutely everything. So I should expect here to have my animals are on one line, this on a second line, this on a third line, and this on a fourth line. You want to see if that happens? Sure you do. Let's flip back over to Node. Let's clear the screen off, and let's go back into our program. And that's exactly what happened. Notice that the carriage return and line feeds were preserved. So it is very important to understand that everything between the two tick marks is automatically picked up by the template literal. One more thing I want to show you here is that I have been using just simple variables here. Earlier I said you could use expressions. Let me show you an example of that. So let's flip back over to some more code here. And I'm going to bring up this new function. And I got a function here that will generate random animals within 3 random animals from the array that I've passed into it. And then here's my new template literal. I've got the template literal, got the carriage return line feed there, and I got the ending right here. But now instead of having a variable, I've got an entire expression within the curly Q brackets. So I just want to make sure you understand here, it just doesn't have to be variables. It could be a real live, honest to goodness JavaScript expression as long as it returns something that can be printed out. So you want to see how this works? Let's flip back over to Node. Clear off the screen. Take a look at it. And yeah, my animals are a horse, cow, and a roadrunner. If I do it again, it's a dog, whale, and another dog. If I do it again, it's a cow, a dog, and a lizard. So as you can tell there, template literals are extraordinarily powerful in their ability to be able to insert variables within a string. And not only that, it's just much easier to look at and it's much easier to maintain. Now, next thing I want to show you here is what we call embedded template literals. We'll show you that next. Now let's talk about embedded template literals. And what does that mean? It literally means you can embed or put a template literal within a template literal within a template literal. Let me show you how that works. It's real simple. I've got my array here, and I've got my 2 animals, and I'm going to randomize a 3rd animal. Here is my template literal itself. Now, I have a cat and a dog. All this is pretty standard, and I have my expression here, but notice the expression also has template literals within it. And what JavaScript will do is it will say, okay, I'm inside of an expression here, but I have another template literal. I'm basically going to interpret this as a whole nother template literal. So here's a template literal within the original one. Here's a second template literal within the original one. And it's embedded itself within the original template literal. So you could have template literals within the expressions that you use within a template literal. And this is called embedding the template literal. You want to see how it works? Sure you do. Let's flip over to Node and let's hope, I'll try about 3 or 4 times. Let's hope I get a duplicate cat here. So let's go to Node, embedded, and I got a unique cow, I got a unique roadrunner, I got a unique whale. Hey, I got one. I got a duplicate cat. Hey, it actually worked. So as you can see here, it did take that template literal that was embedded and did it correctly. Now, can you embed variables within the embedded template literal? Sure you can. Let's take a quick look at that. And since unique is going to come up 9 times out of 10, what I'm going to do here is after unique, I'm going to put, I don't know, dog. Don't ask why, just because. So I'm going to put dog in parentheses. So now I should say I have a cat, a dog, and either duplicate or unique. And then if it says unique, it's going to say dog, and then the animal itself. It's going to look strange, but the whole idea here is to show you that I can actually put expressions in a embedded template literal. Whew. Let's see how that works. Let's go back over to Node. Let's clear off the screen. And let's hope I get a unique the first time. Just my luck will get a cat. Hey, I like how that worked. I've got a cat, a dog, and a unique dog. So as you can tell here, this dog is the part that it was the expression I put inside the embedded template literal. So this shows you that you can have embedded template literals within template literals. Now, I personally, and this is a personal opinion here, I really don't put it on, see if I can get it all on the screen here. I really don't like this. To me, this is even more confusing than having the pluses and everything. I'd rather try to keep my template literals at one level. You may find a much better use for it, and that's great. I'm just saying personally, I don't like to put embedded ones in there, but I'm going to show you that it can be done. So you can embed template literals into other template literals. Now, one of the more advanced features of using template literals is the ability to create tagged functions, or what they also call tag templates. And it's a way for you to control how all the template literal is processed. It's really easy to use, but it has it's a very special feature I want you to be sure you're aware of. Now in my case here, I've just got a simple array and I've got a simple function, which we'll explain in just a minute here, but I want to show you what the tagged template looks like. Here it is right here. All a tag template is that if you pass a template literal into a function, then that template literal will get processed by that particular function before it actually gets outputted. So you're not actually outputting this particular information right here. You are outputting whatever you want to process it for. But I want you to know something very, very specific here. Notice that there are no parentheses around getReport. And that's extremely important here. So if you have the function there, in this case called getReport, and you put that template literal next to it without the parentheses, it will then, JavaScript will then figure out that getReport, it will be a tagged function, and it will process differently. And so what does the tag function do? Well, it literally takes at the least two arguments. The first argument is an array of strings that represents all of the hard-coded strings within your template literal, and then the rest of the arguments are all the different variables that are, or expressions that are passed into the template literal. So for instance, in this case here, I have one string literal right there, and then I have my expression right there. So what happens here is that when getReport is run, I get an array of the hard-coded strings, which in this case is just one because I just have that one string there, plus one animal, which I know because I'm just passing one argument in there. And I know that whenever I run getReport, I'm just going to have strings with just one argument. If I was to have something after the collected animal, like who was alive, for example, there, what would happen now is that I would get inside strings here a two-element array. The first element being we collected an animal in the alley behind the hospital, and the second element was who was alive. And what that basically means is that the strings would represent all the different pieces of the hard-coded strings that are within your template literal, in which the variables are then inserted in between each of those different strings. So for instance, let's go back to our original video here. Here was the original thing we had with my animals are a cat, a dog, and a horse. What I would expect is that my template literal, my tagged function strings argument would have four elements. The first element is my animals are a, the second element is comma a, the third element is and a comma and a, and the fourth element is that lone little period at the very end. And after that, it would have the three variables: cat, dog, and horse. So if I was to do getReport on this particular one here, I would actually have getReport programmed to say strings, comma, animal 1, comma, animal 2, comma, animal 3. And I would know then that animal 1 came between the first and second element of my array, animal 2 came between the second and third element of my array, and animal 3 became between the third and fourth element of my array. So you would get, well, you basically get array element number 0, variable, array element number 1, variable, array element number 2, variable, array element number 3, variable. So if we go back to our original tagged report here, and we'll take out who was alive right there, we will know that we have an array of 1, and then that variable will come after the first array, or the 0 element of the array. Now on line 36 here, I've got where I don't have any animal inside there, so animal is going to come out to be null, so I'm just going to be able to print out just the string itself. So back to the tag function. First argument is the array of the hard-coded strings. The second, plus whatever variables happen to go there, are the variables that are appearing in between each one of those elements of the string. So in my particular case here, if I have an animal, I'm going to report all that, and then I'm just going to do a join of all the strings if they happen to be strings there. So actually, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's say who was alive here, just to show you how it works on there. The second time through here, we found nothing. I'm just going to say no animals report on, and then just join the two strings, join the strings together, but there's only one string to join, so it doesn't really matter. So let's go over to Node and see how it works. Node tagged. And there we have it. Worked like a champ. So all I did was pass in, we collected this animal behind the alley of the hospital, the animal itself, and who was alive. Is all I passed to it. But yet my tagged function, because I've passed it in the way I've passed it with getReport, let me flip back over to code here. Because of the way I passed it here without the parentheses, and by using a template literal, it turned it into a tagged function to expect a series of strings and a particular animal, so that, back over to Node, I can now process that entire template literal and output anything I wanted. And of course, since there was no animal the second time, there was nothing to report on. I just said we found nothing. So that's how you can create what's called a tagged function by passing a template literal into a function without the parentheses. It's a wonderful tool to be able to allow you to process the tagged literal yourself. And that's all there is to template literals. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope it didn't bore you to death. Please visit all of our videos at www.boringjavascript.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or check out everything we have at www.thevirtualvoid.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.